Start streaming. Start recording, start streaming. All right. Guess we can just do this. It's Monday, November 27th. I'm Rim. And this is Geek Nights in the year 2017. Tonight, we're talking about how to decide what technology to buy. Consumer technology, I guess. All right. Got all the bits. Yeah. Okay. So, despite being in the city for a long time, I've been in the area of them, but I've never actually been to the cloisters. Like, I'd never gone inside them.
I've been there. I've been there many a time.
Saw the unicorn?
When I was a kid, when we drove to New York, we would go down to Henry Hudson Parkway and see the cloisters out the window.
Yep.
In the car, and I always wanted to go there because it looks like a castle. It is technically a castle.
It's basically the pieces of all these castles and cathedrals and churches from, like, the Middle Ages.
It's obvious that castles exist in Europe. Castles don't exist in North America unless you count, like,
Bannerman Castle.
Tech ruins or, people who were weird and decided to build a castle even though castle was now an old style of construction that no longer was necessary. Anyway, so why the hell is there a castle in New York City and the north of Manhattan? Is because FDR went and got all these pieces of castles from other places in the world.
Most of which were just going to be destroyed or in disrepair.
And brought them there and made a little museum, which is technically part of the Met.
Yep, you don't have to actually pay to go in. It's suggested donation, and if you suggestedly donate, the ticket they give you also works at the Met
right.
itself.
So the main feature of the cloisters is A, it's cool architecture because it's like a castle.
It is really cool.
B, it's at the top of a hill in a nice park.
That park is also really great.
C, it houses many like artifacts of like Christian medieval times.
Yep, some
and
of which are shockingly, like, we're looking at this one painting.
There's a lot of Jesus-y shit in there.
We're like, why is there this Renaissance painting there? And then it's like, no, this is actually from the Netherlands in the 1300s, and holy fuck, this guy could draw.
Yep. And the number one reason that people go there is because it houses the famous unicorn tapestries.
Which there is a conspiracy around that unicorn tapestry.
When I was there, the last time I was there was a tour group looking at the tapestries at the same time I was, and some moron was like, "Hey, are unicorns real?" And everyone laughs, but this like 40-year-old dude sort of believed in unicorns for real.
I guess it was too soon for.
And why is he asking? Why is he asking a tapestry expert about cryptozoology?
I mean, one, maybe he was just poorly attempting a joke.
No.
But two, I remember a certain person in my high school who didn't seem to know that World War II had happened, and this became apparent as we started studying it. And this person did not. They expressed incredulity, and as the unit went on, got increasingly distraught, and it became readily apparent that they literally did not know about the war in the Pacific, like, at all.
They thought only half of the war happened?
Like, they didn't know that America and Japan had fought a war.
All right.
And it was a fascinating individual, I recall. But here's the thing.
It's hard to, I don't want to spend too much time in the opening bit, but like,
yeah.
At what point, it's like I wasn't born with that knowledge.
Yeah.
At what point in my life did I know that, and how come when I was in history class it wasn't a shock to me?
Yeah.
Because it's not like I watched that many war movies before high school.
I mean, we didn't study World War II as like a unit until high school, but when I got to like 10th grade and like now's the World War II unit,
maybe because I had a Jewish education, I was more aware. But no, other non-Jews don't have this problem.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
But the unicorn tapestry is notable in that, despite growing up in Michigan, I knew all about that unicorn tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there's a picture of it in my Western Civ book, my textbook, which I have because I stole it when I left high school, and it's over there. And there's a page that has the unicorn tapestry. Well, one of the unicorn tapestries.
It's weird because on the one hand, I feel like the unicorn tapestries are sort of overhyped and overrated.
But they're really impressive in person.
On the other hand, I really like tapestries, and I really like the unicorn tapestries a lot. It's almost like the initial D of old art. parts where it's like
But-
I feel like it's not as great as it's not as great as all the hype, but at the same time I really like it a lot.
Yep. So, the picture in my textbook from Michigan of the unicorn tapestry was the one that most people see and the one that's on all the merchandise.
Where the unicorn is sitting down and there's
Yep.
like a circle and there's a big
And the unicorn
open...
has this look on its face like, hey,
yeah.
I'm here.
What's up?
So
You
all
want to ride me, bro?
all the other
Have
tapestries.
you had sex with anyone? Because if you have,
Yeah.
I might not talk to you or let you see me or let you ride me.
So let me describe briefly all
But
the
you know,
other
if you've never
tapestries.
felt the horn before, well,
'Cause
maybe there's some action for it.
that's the tapestry that kids know and are like, yeah, that's the great unicorn. Look at that chill unicorn. He's so
There's a bunch of other ones. They tell a story.
Yeah, the story is bunch of medieval shitheads saw a unicorn purifying water,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest of them are them hunting down and brutally murdering the unicorn to steal its horn.
Yeah.
The end.
Yep.
And in fact, the pillow, because you can buy a pillow at the store at the cloister that has the unicorn on it, has the nice one in the circle. But if you look at it, you can see they've kind of removed all the blood that's on the unicorn from his injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And
How do you know the unicorn's a dude?
yeah, I could be a lady. We don't know. In fact, the
It
tapestry.
could be a transgender unicorn.
Yeah, we do not know the identity of that unicorn. All we know is that those medieval fuckheads murdered it, and it's covered in blood in most of the tapestries of it. And yet, most people who have not been to the cloisters only know this picture of this chill unicorn sitting in a circle. They don't know that's a cage with this chain around its neck.
Nope.
But yeah, that was a chill time. It was a good time up there.
Chill time hanging with the brutally dehorned unicorn.
Yeah. The tapestry where they got the horn is the worst because the top of it is like all these spears through the unicorn and blood everywhere.
If
And
you're nerdy and you want to do nerdy type things related to the cloisters and you come to New York, once a year they have a medieval timey Ren Fair type thing there
yeah.
that you can go to.
I'm sure there will be people there who will be more than happy to explain to you everything you never wanted to know about medieval swords.
We should go there cosplaying as
Star Trek dudes in the holodeck?
a bloody unicorn and a unicorn hunter.
Perhaps a triptych of different states of the unicorn.
I'll get a whole bunch of people, make 3.
I'm into triptychs after being there too, because there's a lot of triptychs.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's Monday, so I guess we won't talk about unicorns. We'll talk about technology. So here's some news.
So I got 2 newses that are really one news, right? So the first news is that someone, did a study and they found out that Pokemon Go, right, because people were playing it so much, did quite a lot of damage in terms of traffic-related incidents for people playing Pokemon Go. If Pokemon Go had not been created, there are people who would be less hurt, less dead, and less cars that would be less damaged.
$500,000 in additional damage, 31 additional injuries, 2 additional deaths.
Pokemon Go murdered 2 people. Real people in the real world. That's not something to joke about. That's an actual thing. The people at the company that makes Pokemon Go, by writing that software, murdered 2 people.
Now, as a counterpoint, before you get to the second bit,
Indirectly.
your second news that'll tie all this together, the mere act of adding bike lanes had similar effects because more people started biking. Even though the bike lanes probably made any individual biker safer, it actually increased the number of bike deaths.
But it decreased actual overall deaths. Queens Boulevard used to be the boulevard. Every study that's shown is bike lanes. They slow traffic and reduce overall, right? So it's the total amount of damage, right? Even though maybe someone else decided to bike who wouldn't have biked without the bike lane and they died, the overall number of people who were harmed or died in all traffic-related incidents are reduced when bike lanes are added.
And there's also a side
So
story.
for that one person who died, 2 other people were saved at least.
There's a side story we don't have to get into about how anyone who's making technology should at least think about the potential ramifications of that technology and make ethical decisions.
Right. So, secondly, you got this guy that I didn't know about, and he has this spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet that's got like a zillion sheets in it. You can actually get the spreadsheet and mess with it. Good luck. And what it is it's basically this thing where he tries to take into account all possible factors of New York transit of all kinds. And there's a few inputs, and you change those inputs, and you can go to all the other sheets and basically see what the effect would be on all these aspects of New York transit. And there's sheets for buses and all these different small things, big things. It's what would the effect be on this,
So
this bridge, it's like, all right, it tells you, right? And
how rigorous is the science and math behind this?
I have no idea, but it's pretty impressive. I downloaded, opened it, and was like, what the fuck? And then I deleted it. But anyway, while, that aspect of it is questionable, right? It's like, a lot of the, if you read the article, it's like, oh, well, where did you get the numbers for calculating this? And it's usually from like various studies and things. It's like, oh, someone studied that for every X we spend here, it causes X. So that goes into the spreadsheet, right? It sort of basically combines all these things together. And the main purpose of it is to evaluate the effect of possible, congestion pricing, which is something that's been discussed in New York a lot, where we're going to charge people money to drive a car below some street in Manhattan. So basically, in Manhattan, in the busy area where the big buildings are, if you want to drive your car there, we're going to charge you some money, and we're going to use this to pay for trains and buses and all the other good stuff, because no one has the balls to just tax rich people and take all their money or anything like that, even though some people are asking for it, no one's actually doing it. So this spreadsheet you can use to figure out exactly, well, what if we raise the price too much? Oh, it turns out that people just stop driving there.
But that's what I want.
Yes. But it's like, well, what would the actual total cost to society be, right? Well, what areas would be helped or harmed and whatnot. So, this spreadsheet's really cool. The Pokemon Go thing is pretty interesting. But why are these the same news? Is because clearly we have reached a point where even though we don't have perfect information, right, we have the ability to at least accurately enough estimate, I don't want to say predict, but estimate the total cost to society of any particular project or policy or whatever. Yet, almost never do people take in this total cost of anything into account when they make decisions. People just start Uber. They just start companies without thinking about the total cost, right?
Well, because they're probably thinking about their own personal profit
right.
motivation.
Oh, one of the interesting facts in the article from the guy with the spreadsheet is when you drive a car into Manhattan on a weekday, you cost everyone else at least $160 in externalities. Right, you're basically doing $160 of damage to society if you drive a car into Manhattan on a weekday. But we don't charge you $160. You're basically stealing $160 from all of society as a whole whenever you do that. So, nobody's charging you $160 to do that, and we absolutely should.
Well, there was yet another, I'm not going to try to dig it up right now, but there's another article that I read that was talking, I think it was the New York Times, but it was talking about the story of how and why the New York City subway has become so ridiculously underfunded, despite being so, literally and directly crucial to the economy of America as a whole.
And used by a shit ton of people who all pay for it.
Millions and millions of people. And arguably, I'm of the mind that the New York City subway should be free for anyone to ride and be funded solely through tax dollars.
It can be free if you tax other people enough. If you set, I think they said the congestion price at some number, that they could make all buses and all subways free forever.
Yep. But then I see the guy who made this spreadsheet. I'm just skimming this article. He's something like, oh, but then it increases this traveler's amenity, which is like the benefit that travelers get out of the system.
Yep.
And he already, he seems to make a lot of pro-car arguments skimming this article.
The point is that, I'm not vouching for the reality of the spreadsheet, which is why I used much language like estimate.
Yeah.
Right? What I'm saying is that in general, right, people, there's lots and lots of people are doing large projects that are all over the news. Things like Bitcoin. It's like, well, they just fucking do it, and everyone starts doing things without considering the environmental impact or any, the impacts on, all sorts of things, right? And it's understandable that, back in the day, before we had computers, that was a thing, because it's like, yeah, first of all, they didn't have the knowledge, let alone the power to, consider what would all the consequences be of doing this large thing. But now, to at least enough extent, we have the power to do that. And I think it's actually morally mandatory when doing any large project to consider the total cost to society.
It's hard to say, though, because
if you're going to make Pokemon Go, you better consider what's going to happen when you make Pokemon Go. Don't
but
just
even your
fucking do
Pokemon
it.
Go example does not take into account any of the benefits to society in terms of all the people who might have walked around who previously were not walking.
Yeah, I mean, you got to count everything, right?
And
make a
if you wanna
giant
count
Pokemon
everything-
Go before you release that shit. Make a giant spreadsheet.
If you wanna count everything, then you have to worry about the fact that quantitative analysis of a lot of these things is both one, extremely difficult or possibly dubious, and two, the goals of anything, like what thing to optimize for or what counts as a cost versus a benefit, is highly partisan in America. I mean, certain people would say that anything that reduces the number of drivers is a harm, whereas I would say it's a benefit.
Yep.
So that's part of the reason why this isn't so simple as let's just do the calculation, because we can't agree on what we're calculating, how we're calculating it, and how to interpret the outputs.
Even if somebody was to disagree with me and say more cars is better, right? It would be at least, they should at least do some amount of reasonable effort, so at least they know that the thing they're doing is going to make more drivers like they want, right? I'd rather have that, where they want the opposite thing of me and they're effective and intelligent and going about it, than just doing something they think will have more drivers without even estimating in advance.
Well, I guess an
using
interesting
advanced,
example
the best knowledge available.
I'm not even so much concerned about this sort of like projecting forward because of all the perils I've noted hitherto, but I'm more interested in the fact that we're not even dealing with the problems where we don't need to project anything. We have empirical historical data showing that the solutions we are attempting to problems fail. The best example of this is highways and freeways. The fact that we add more lanes to highways and freeways to reduce congestion, yet empirical evidence over the course of like 60 years shows that that literally increases drive times and increases congestion. It does not decrease. So,
well, I mean, because when you're making, you got to fix the bottlenecks, right? Look at the George Washington Bridge. It's like the bridge still only has so many lanes. Adding more lanes to it doesn't help. You got more lanes going in than there are on it, so it's that.
But look at like LA. No matter how many more lanes you add anywhere, it doesn't actually.
There's going to be a
problem.
bottleneck somewhere. They don't have 10 lanes on Main Street.
So it's
10
even
lanes
worse.
on the freeway doesn't do you any good if there aren't 10 lanes on all the other roads.
It appears that even if they eliminate effectively all bottlenecks, like say you got 10 lanes from every destination to every other destination, what ends up happening in practice is that more people start driving because driving is more convenient. The fact that there is congestion is actually
you
a
just
big
have to have
factor.
so many lanes to accommodate as many people as you have. So if you got, as many people as New York City, just every road should be 50 lanes, cover the whole Isle of Manhattan with just solid pavement and roads and nothing else. And then we can all drive no problem.
What was that silly plan from like the Robert Moses days of fill in the East River and put buildings on it and make a big highway?
Yeah, there's also the one where he wanted to like make a road, like a bridge that goes over Manhattan, so you could just drive from Brooklyn to New Jersey.
Yep.
Like you'd be up above like 30-something Avenue, just like on a bridge going all the way across.
Anyway, we need more mass transit.
Yeah.
So I got a little, not really a news, but it's something that's it might be interesting to you guys because a long time ago, back in 2008, we did a show on NAS.
2008 was a long time ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Network attached storage. We talked about the boxes with hard drives that you store files on in your house. So you go listen to that episode. I'll link to it if you want to know.
I still have the NAS that I bought way back. It's still
I do too. My Netgear.
It's a Netgear like Ready NAS NV Plus.
I got the Netgear like two. It's only got 2 drives.
It's a 4-bay. It kind of sucks. It's a little flaky. Some of the features are a little meh, but it works. It still works today. It still has all my files safely. None of the drives in it have ever crashed. The power supply in it actually failed, and I had to get a replacement, which I replaced myself, and it totally worked. I mean, my files are still on there. What can I say? I feel like I want to replace it, but that's a lot of money, and the one I have still works, so it's hard to justify.
If you want a good NAS and you're someone like us, meaning that you generate a lot of like media content, like you have workflows that involve big files. You're not normal.
Yep.
Because normal people, There are you do not need a NAS 90% of the time.
No, but like if I'm recording I'm doing a lot of 1080p videos just because 4K is too big.
Yeah, guys, if we record in 4K, say we have 2 cameras on a panel at PAX, that's 16 gigs per camera for 1 panel.
And I do even if I only video panels and nothing else my whole life, that's how many panels do we do a year?
Oh my God.
Times about 20 gigs each. Right? If I don't want to delete anything, it's like I could just make the video, then delete all the raw source material, but that I feel wrong about that.
Yep, especially because I have gone into my archive.
Even though not once ever have I gone back into the...
I have gone back a couple times. One time I went back to remaster a video, removing a clip that had some copyright troubles, and re-render it.
The main reason I keep all this stuff is because A, I feel it's wrong to delete data, but also B... I see stories, some old person, they go into they die and someone moves into the house and looks in the attic and finds a trove of old something, books, right? I gotta leave.
Silly, but
I gotta leave behind that trove so a newspaper article can be written about me after I die.
Well, think about this.
Wow, we found this trove of old videos from the early 2000s.
A lot of the stuff we know about what it was like in New York City in the 20s is because of just random photos shitheads took on the street.
It's like you look and you see these photos of old timey New York and you're like, whoa. And it's like I take photos like that every day. Those photos are just boring as hell because they're current day New York. But if I just keep that photo around for 50 years, it'll be old-timey New York, and that photo will be
great.
Imagine
100 years
That'll
ago,
be like an award-winning photo if I just hold on to it for 70 years.
100 years from now, someone finds Scott's B-roll of some random PAX, and they're like, this is actual video from inside the first Penny Arcade Expo Unplugged before it became the government.
Yeah, look at the handful of photos you see from 70s nerd cons. It's like...
Oh my God. I mean, I'm excited. There's a super low-res picture of the first, I think it was the second RIT Anime Club meeting in the year 2000 that shows me and Scott and pretty much all the friends, our entire crew from that era, sitting in different parts of this room. Seeing that photo is amazing, even though the photo's 60 pixels across.
Yeah.
So,
in 2000?
Right now, you probably don't need a NAS. Do not do this. But if you're like us and you need a centralized place to put data from multiple devices, because if you don't need multiple devices, just put a bunch of fucking hard drives in your regular computer and RAID 1 them. It's totally fine. I have 5 terabytes of RAID 1, so 10 terabytes rated into 5 terabytes, and that's directly attached to 6 gig SATA in my computer. I'm using 800 gigs of it right now if I don't count garbage I'm just working on.
Yeah, a DAS is also not a bad... If you don't need the network part of a NAS, a DAS is not a bad idea. Just get a Drobo or whatever that just USB or something.
USB 3 and plug it into the back of your computer. It's fast enough for most of what you're doing.
And what's also good about that solution is if you're maybe going to switch computers, you could unplug it from one and plug it into a laptop, and that's actually faster than, say, sending the files over the network.
Yep.
So it's not a bad idea to do the DAS based on... unless you really need the network part.
So here's why the simple parameters why I'm getting a new NAS. One, me and Emily together both generate a lot of media, so I want a unified backup pipeline for all of our shit. Meaning it has to be huge. So I want a real NAS that I can set up quotas and CIFS/Samba mounts, SMB, all that nonsense. So all our main computers that create media can do fun stuff like the automatic Windows backup of the entire file system. Why not? Keep 3 of those, and incremental backups, and also to archive to it stuff that I'm not actively working on. And then, because I want to have a full pipeline, because it's a real NAS instead of the crappy Netgear I got up there, I could do something like have it back itself up once a month to Glacier. And I think the best solution for someone in that prosumer, low-level professional workflow is a Synology DS 1517 Plus.
Yeah, Synologies are pretty good.
The QNAPs, I just gut feeling.
The Synology ones, you look online and like that software does like everything.
Yep. Now there's multiple levels. Like Synology has a lot of devices, but generally there's always two of every kind. There's the one that's pretty much only for home people, and there's the one that's kind of aimed at small office business. The latter one is way faster and more reliable and better in pretty much every way. So it's probably worth it to spend the extra money. So the 1517 Plus has enough horsepower. It's like a computer to where I can run like all the internal house services I need out.
Yeah, that's another thing. These NASs provide a lot of features. Some of them might be redundant with your router. Like you can use it as a DHCP server or a DNS server. Some of them have HDMI outputs. You can put videos. Let's say you don't have an HDPC. You can plug the NAS into your TV, put video files on the NAS, and then the NAS can actually play them and send them out to the TV through HDMI.
This one,
NAS,
I think, will even run Docker, so I could like put a Gitter up there and just have it like run on the
my
NAS.
I use as a print server. I have the printer plugged into the NAS because my printer is USB. It doesn't have not have its own network service. So you plug it into the NAS, and now every device in the house can print.
I used to do that, but now I have a fancy, like, modern Brother laser color printer, and it just prints wirelessly, and it just works as its own print server.
Mine is is an older black and white laser jet that does not have any network capabilities.
Yeah, this crazy printer was so cheap. It was cheaper than
mine was also so cheap. I just bought it way long ago.
Yep. I only bought this one because the old laser printer I had, the toner ran out, and the toner didn't cost that much less than just buying a brand new printer.
Yeah, anyway, but NASs do a lot of stuff and not just store your files these days.
The other reason is I want it to be this separate thing because the danger of modern malware, which can get even smart people, is that if you get like a crypto locker kind of malware, and you have a DAS plugged into your computer, guess what? The DAS gets encrypted too.
It'll be very difficult for a evil crypto locking malware to get to your NAS.
Yep, let alone, even if it gets to the NAS, sure, it's not going to get to the Glacier backup.
Yeah, well, this is one interesting thing people have been talking about recently related to the big news of net neutrality.
Yeah.
Which is, if we lose net neutrality, you might end up in a situation where... you got a little, Glacier, you're a cloud backup.
You want to download your 4 terabytes of like every photo of your family for generations? That'll be $10,000 for that bandwidth.
That's just metered bandwidth. That's not net neutrality. But the point is, they could block and/or slow lane whatever your cloud backup provider is. Now what? Now what? Right? It's like, I think actually backing up, if you're doing only cloud backups, I think you may want to.
Yep.
Like the new
that is another reason why I'm changing.
You may want to make sure you have local backups once net neutrality is gone.
My previous backup regime was Amazon Cloud Drive before they ruined it. So in the era before net neutrality was under real threat and Amazon Cloud Drive existed, I could pay $70 a month for infinite storage. And you know what I did? I uploaded like 7 terabytes of shit. I'm pretty sure people like me are why they shut that thing down.
Yep.
But I was using cloud-only backup. I was just putting stuff on Amazon Cloud Drive and saying, fuck it.
Yep.
So now I got to download 7 terabytes of crap and put it somewhere before the end of the year.
Good luck.
I ain't paying like $400 a month to keep it up there.
I just want to also say I got, a lot of my files are not well organized. I'm sure that's true for everyone.
Mine are almost really well organized. Like,
my photos are well organized thanks to Lightroom, but nothing else is. So
the GeekNights archive is organized by nature of the file names.
My video is not organized well. My video file
so
projects.
Mine is organized.
I got Lightroom. Premiere projects like all over.
I made a point of consolidating that, and you know what? Setting up that pipeline, like making my Premiere workflow make sense to anyone other than me, and also make sense to me because yours probably doesn't fully make sense to you. You're like, you try to open a file and you're like, wait a minute, where is it? It took me like 2 weeks of like every day.
So I just want to say there's a strategy you can use. It's the Scott strategy for organizing files. I did this way back in the day with MP3s, and then luckily that was the end of MP3 collecting, so I was safe.
Folder-based, subfolders.
Make one folder, name it old shit, and drag fucking everything in there.
Yep.
Right? Don't worry about organizing the old shit.
Organize the new stuff.
Just have everything in the old shit folder. So put the old shit folder on the NAS, and now on your brand new computer, organize everything properly from now on.
And
don't fuck up. Come up, make a folder for video projects. Make one folder for each video you're making, and now you're good forevermore. And all the old shit is in the old shit folder.
Now, the only other rule that's very important, anytime you use something in the old shit folder, put it in the new place. Like,
Maybe.
move it first.
Maybe. I mean, if you're making a new video project,
Scott, here's the
and
other
one of the
problem.
sources for the new project is an old video from the old shit folder, yeah, drag it into that folder for that new project.
Yeah. I mostly organize my media now by where I took the footage. Like, this is from PAX 2016, and then in there's a folder like, this is B-roll, this is the panel we did.
Yeah,
this
whatever.
Is the other panel
You
we
know,
did.
the point is the main strategy I'm trying to teach people is the old shit.
Oh, yeah. But, Scott,
put everything in the old shit
Scott,
folder strategy.
Do you have in your old shit folder an old shit folder that might have an old shit folder inside of it? Because I do.
I have only 2 layers deep of old shit folders. I have an old shit folder. In it is MP3s, and in that is an old shit folder, even older MP3s.
My oldest file
That's as deep as
archive
it goes.
on Earth is my MP3 collection.
Okay.
So anyway,
Because I did organize it at one point.
to
That's why it
shorten
only
this
goes
up,
too deep.
5 bay NASs are the sweet spot right now.
I got 4 bay. I think 4 bay is good enough
So
because
the-
you can get big drives these days.
Yeah,
big
so
ones.
here's the other thing.
Like, you get 4 8-terabyte drives, 24T. That's good enough for now.
Yeah, so
I'm still living on 4 2-terabyte drives, no problem.
yeah, I got 2 5-terabyte drives in my current computer, and I'm looking at putting 5 8-terabyte drives in the NAS because
Not bad.
8 terabytes is the sweet spot right now. They're like $200 to $250 for a 5400 RPM. And yes, you want a slower drive in a NAS. Don't be stupid.
What's your
Don't-
hurry?
Yeah, it's a NAS. If it, the
They even sell. If you're not sure, on Newegg,
Western Digital
they actually
NAS
sell.
drives.
They actually sell NAS drives. I think a lot of it is just sort of like
Nope,
bullshit
Nope,
marketing.
I looked into it. I think I recommend Western Digital because they seem to be the generally most reliable.
I mean, no, but I
consumer-
mean, I'm talking about all the different drive manufacturers these days are marketing like these are drives that you should use for your like.
No, I learned why.
This and these drives for
learned
that.
Why?
Uh-huh.
I actually know the deal here. So, and this is not a Western Digital ad, but the black drives are the ones that are high performance. But the counterpoint is
At least on paper.
they are higher performance.
Okay.
They're also louder. They spin faster. They generate more heat and vibration. But they're faster. Don't put that shit in your NAS. They have the like blue, which is like the normal drives. If you
I want to just get a NAS and fill it with SSDs.
you can.
But like you think about how much space a 3.5-inch drive takes up, right? Now think about how much space an M2 drive
Scott,
takes up.
Yes. So
Why can't I get a little tiny thing that's got like 10 M2 drives in it and that hide it away in a closet somewhere? That's just Godspeed, right? But has
PCIe lanes? Because the problem is M2 is only useful if you plug it into PCIe. If you plug it into SATA, it's not really faster than
right. So
any
someone
other
just make a
SSD.
board that has a whole bunch of PCIe's and a controller chip and a network card.
Because
on
those lanes.
lanes,
The
whatever.
lanes, back to the lanes. Which I don't
Sure,
wanna get
make
into
it.
now.
Just make a chip that's got 1,000 lanes on it.
Anyway, we'll talk about that in the future.
Sure.
So, because I want to wrap this up.
Got to go to the meta moment now.
The deal with the
things of the
5
day.
with those drives is that the NAS drives, Western Digital splits into 2 kinds of NAS drives. They're the red ones. There's the regular ones and the pro ones. The pro ones are louder, hotter, and you probably don't want them. In fact, you most definitely don't want them. They also cost a lot more money. The only reason you'd ever get the so-called pro Western Digital Reds for a NAS is if the NAS has more than 5 bays. The reason for this, ostensibly, is that up to about 5 bays, the vibrations from all these drives acting in sync is reasonable. If you have 8 drives all in a giant NAS and they're all doing the same things, doing like RAID 5 or RAID 6, then not only are the consequences of multiple failures more devastating, the consequences of multiple failures are more likely because multiple simultaneous failures are more likely, and drives are prone to that synchronized vibration.
Why not have the bays like individually like floating or something, or offset so they're not all in the same position, or they're at angles, or have half of them are vertical and half of them are horizontal, or something
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
a lot of reasons for that, but the way they are today, that's how any NAS you're going to see is going to be.
All right. I wonder how big data centers handle that problem,
They buy good drives and they use specialized harnesses.
or just use SSDs.
like in this 2U unit where you just go SSD, 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 SSD. You put like 32 of them in a row.
Yeah, I
Those
want one of those.
exist.
Can I get one of those?
If you got like 80K, yeah, let's do it. It'll be so loud we couldn't talk next to it.
SSDs are loud, or just the fans?
Cooling.
Yeah.
But anyway, 8 terabytes the sweet spot. for 3.5-inch drives right now, and 10 terabyte is too much money for how much you get. 12 terabyte is way too much money. It's good for a PC, but not for a NAS. The expensive ProRes Western Digital NAS drives have extra vibration dampening and extra environmental stuff to protect them from this stuff. The only other thing is, do you do RAID 5 or RAID 6 with a lot of drives? Because RAID 6 protects you against two failures.
My NAS has like its own custom RAID, which I guess is
either 5 or 6 effectively.
It's some sort of RAID 5, and I just said, okay, use whatever RAID you want. It says, okay, and it works.
So here's the problem. If you have a lot of bays, if a disk goes in your NAS and you're using the equivalent of RAID 5, then if another drive goes before you put another drive in,
you're only safe with one drive going down with
but
RAID
it's worse
5.
because when you put a new drive in to replace it, now all the existing drives have to work overtime to rebuild the array into that new drive.
Correct.
Increasing the chance that one will fail before it finishes. Because those are the drives.
I feel like you're still pretty safe with a RAID 5.
So I would go with RAID 6 if I had the 5 bay, if I weren't going to do this backup strategy to Glacier. If RAID 5, the worst case scenario is I lose a drive, I immediately put in the cold spare, the array fails before the cold spare finishes, I lose at most 30 days of data as I go back to my Glacier backup. I'm willing to take that risk, and that gives Daddy 32 terabytes of redundant storage for about $2,000.
If my crappy NAS that's a piece of junk that only had a power supply fail has kept me safe without even one failure with
I've
RAID
had 2
5,
drives fail in that thing over the last
I'm
many
feeling
years.
pretty good.
I've had 2 drives fail
At
in
the
that
same
NAS.
time?
Not at the same time.
Okay.
It's a 2 drive with RAID 1, so if I lost both, yeah. So yeah, I'll link to the forum thread where I say exactly what I'm about to buy, but this feels like the sweet spot, and again, you only need this if you're like us.
All right. Too much NAS talk.
In the Metamo, I guess we got to do things of the day first.
Yeah, those.
But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
So, this is sort of genre of video, article, whatever, where people like to debunk experts at things, particularly subjective things. And the one that always comes to mind is like wine experts. They'll like get some wine experts and they'll give them some wines without telling them what they are. And like, ooh, can you tell? And they can sort of not tell.
Yep.
It's sort of
the best I've seen is there are some people who can tell, but they're specially trained and they seem to not actually enjoy wine. And
right.
Like it's
the
not.
point is that they're exposing the amount of bullshit that is sort of out, right? But anyway, here I saw a link to this video today where there was a cheese expert who was going to try to identify the more expensive cheese. And it's like, I thought at first it was going to be one of those videos where they're like, showing you that like cheese expert is bullshit or something. But actually, first of all, it wasn't a completely blind thing. The cheese expert looks at the 2 cheeses, A and B, with their eyes and then tastes the cheeses and then tells you which one is more expensive, right? And first of all, I think it's hard to argue after watching this video that cheese expert has a lot of bullshit in it. Like, they were able to successfully and correctly identify like every single fucking cheese.
So, fun fact, I used to work with this awesome Greek dude at my old company. And
like they were able to tell you what kind of milk it was and like how long it was aged and like and it was like, this is first of all, watching this really made me appreciate cheese more, care about cheese more. I learned a lot about cheese.
I went out and got some feta because we were going to have just like tomato.
And it's clearly not an ad or anything because like the person was able I know exactly what cheese this is and did not say any brands or anything, right?
But I went out and got feta because we were going to make like a lunch in the office, and I come back with it, and it's just like in this nondescript bag, like no label on or anything. I bring this feta out, and we start to eat it, and he's like, "Why'd you get some bullshit Bulgarian feta?" And I'm like, what? He's like, this is not Greek feta. This is Bulgarian. Maybe it's American, but it ain't real. And he was right. I bought like the cheap Bulgarian feta.
Yeah, if you want to, learn something about cheese, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this who aren't lactose intolerant, most people I know really fucking love cheese.
Natalie's going to be into this video.
Oh yeah, but
she's already seen it.
It's like, I think most people are like me, at least most people I know, where it's like, you're not a cheese nerd. Cheese isn't your hobby. Cheese is really delicious. You always love to eat a cheese. You also would love to learn about a cheese. It's just not something that comes to mind except when cheese is available.
That's why you need a friend like we got with Natalie who will go out and come with like weird cheeses
Yeah,
and know
so
everything about them.
right. So check out this cheese info here for a cheese layperson. Good stuff.
So speaking of deleting information, why Scott can't delete these old videos of like PAX 2008.
Uh-huh.
So I found this Twitter thread, and it's a real good Twitter thread about how someone wasted their day falling down this weird rabbit hole. So they found this picture of the Temple of Olympian Zeus in Athens
Mm-hmm.
from 1858. There's this thing on top of it. There's like this thing there in the picture.
Yeah.
So he's like, what's that thing in this picture? And then he looks at a picture of the restoration. There's no thing like that in the restoration, but there's a thing like that in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes
Maybe the
around.
restoration's from the wrong angle.
So there's not much to this ruin. Like, it's just pretty tall, this thing.
I mean, it's from Athenian times. The shit old, son. Way
Yeah.
older than some piece of shit cloister.
So then he finds in like a textbook or something
That's older than that's older than the Parthenon.
another picture that doesn't have the thing on it. So he's like, all right, maybe someone added this thing. Like, man, what's
No,
the
it
deal?
fell off.
No, it's so much crazier than that. So then he realized that the photo without the thing is the exact same photo as the photo with the thing, and he proved that the thing was clearly airbrushed out.
Mm-hmm.
So the plot thickened, and then he found this painting that shows the thing. Someone painted it with the thing, and then he found another painting. Then he found this like essay someone wrote from from the 1700s that was like, there's this thing, like they mentioned the thing.
Okay.
And if you follow,
Are you sure this isn't a movie about a genie starring Sinbad the comedian?
if you follow this thread all the way to the end, what the thing is funny, crazy, and ridiculous together. It did exist. It was a thing. And now I know what that thing was.
Why doesn't someone just go there now and look at it?
Because it's gone.
Oh.
It was removed.
I meant the whole temple is still there, right?
Oh, yeah, but the thing was removed. The thing was added after this was built in ancient, old times.
So the thing is not Athenian.
But it was added to the Athenian thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone else said, what the fuck is this thing? And removed it.
Because it wasn't Athenian.
And there was very little documentation as to how or why, and this thread explains it all. And
Was it perhaps Romans that added it?
Oh, it ends with screaming hobos living on top of pillars demanding food from people who pass by. It goes crazy in a hurry.
Okay.
Was
it just some hostile architecture to keep hobos off the temple?
It's so much better than that. But you end up with pictures like this of saints sitting on top of pillars screaming at people.
Okay.
This was a very fascinating thing that I read.
All right.
It's this guy, this hobo guy.
All right. What's up, hobo man?
He's chained to the top of this pillar.
Oh, is that what the thing is?
Yeah.
A way to chain people up there to punish them?
No, they've chained themselves up there to be closer to God.
Good luck.
It's good times.
So some Christian nut jobs put it up there. So
And then Turks removed them for it's complicated.
You just shoot arrows at them. That'll get them down.
Yeah, or just don't bring them food.
Throw rocks at them.
So in the meta moment, we've been crazy busy. You notice we didn't do shows after PAX Unplugged. That's because Scott apparently is dying of tuberculosis.
And then it was Thanksgiving.
Yep.
But now, up until the end of the month, we are doing jack and shit, which means you're getting Geek Nights episodes for 4 weeks.
Yep, and other associated projects.
That
are kicking off in earnest.
includes this one. So this is the first of at least 8 Geek Nights episodes in a row.
And also, much more important, in January, there's going to probably be like a couple weeks without a lot of Geek Nights because we're going to be presenting a ton of
There's
panels.
going to be New Year's. There's going to be MagFest.
We're going to be at MagFest doing a bunch of panels.
Can you hear it in the distance?
Oh, I hear him. What's that? Do you hear it? I got to tear my shirt off like Toga.
Yeah.
And we're going to be at PAX Unplugged doing at least one panel. The panel.
You mean PAX South?
PAX South, yes.
You went to PAX Unplugged already.
You can see the number of PAXs has exceeded the ability of my brain to keep them all in order.
Mm-hmm.
I keep having these panic moments where I'll be like booking a hotel room for like PAX East and then be like, oh shit, I didn't submit panels. And they're like, oh wait, no, that's not even open yet. PAX East. I got 3 PAXs before PAX East.
Yep.
So we will be at PAX South on Friday, 4 p.m. in the Bobcat Theater talking about balance in game design. This is a brand new Geek Nights lecture.
Courtesy of Scott, because Rim doesn't have anything new.
Hey, do you know how much fucking work it took to make that Carcassonne panel?
I made this panel already. It's like 30% done, and it's only took me like a couple hours.
Yeah, it only took me like one day to make that Carcassonne panel, but it was like one full day of like get mostly. I had to take pictures of Carcassonne tiles. A lot of them. That was a lot
Couldn't
more
just
work.
get him from the old BGG.
No, because most people who upload pictures of the BGG upload them with the license of you can't use this for shit.
Take a flatbed scanner, put all the Carcassonne tiles you can on it, and then scan once, and then you're good.
That would be way more work than just setting
Just
up the
cut it into a grid
arrangements.
in Photoshop.
That would be so much more work. I just took pictures of interesting Carcassonne situations.
Anyway,
Yeah,
use the app and take screenshots.
I'm gonna pick the next book club book real soon. I'm leaning toward the new translation of the Odyssey, like real hard.
You're not choosing it as your book club book, because if you were actually gonna, make good on your threat, you would have done it already. But I don't know if it's still the case, but it was recently the case that Rim's favorite Count of Monte Cristo Kindle version was like 57 cents or something like that. The Penguin book edition.
Oh, that's the good one.
Right. It was like 57 cents on Amazon. So I'm just like, 57 cent, whatever.
You should probably just read it anyway, even if I don't make it the book club. 'Cause
Unlikely until I'm old man, but hey, 57 cent.
All I'm saying is,
I don't know if that's still true though. Go take a look.
all I'm saying is, it's a lot of pages, and something happens.
You don't
in pretty much
say.
every page.
Sure.
There's no pages where nothing happens.
So 10,000 things happen. in
It is,
this
yeah,
fucking yeah.
yeah. It is not. It's like the Wheel of Time.
Right.
It's not Great Expectations, which to this day I never actually read.
Ulysses, the famous.
I wrote multiple essays on Great Expectations. I know I can talk about Miss Havisham forever and Satis House, but I have no idea what actually happens in that stupid book. Pip and such.
That's all I know is that it's the thing with the guy named Pip.
You know less than me, so you
I
never
know
read
almost
it.
nothing other than that. It's a famous novel.
All I know is I had to write essays on it in high school, and I wrote them without reading it.
Anyway.
And I got A's, I guess. So
Yeah,
whatever.
you should go on the internet and find Geek Nights in every place that Geek Nights exist, which is every place that is on the internet. For at least before net neutrality is gone, you can still find us on YouTube and every social network. And then once net neutrality is here, who knows if you'll be able to find us at all.
So, main bit. Talking about how because we recently I bought a new computer.
Today is Cyber Monday. Ooh.
Yup, and let me tell ya,
where people spend money for the sake of spending money.
In my opinion, there is nothing on sale for either Black Friday or Cyber Monday in the nerdy PC prosumer electronics area that is worth it.
Nope.
Everything that's on sale is either old inventory that people are trying to get rid of, crappy stuff like the bottom tier TV.
The only stuff that would be good and on sale is stuff that is incredibly low availability and is not worth the fight in order to save that amount of money.
Yep.
You could to spend 5 hours fighting to save like $100 on something. It's like, dude, in 5 hours you could just work a job and make $100.
And even worse, so those NAS drives I want, right? Like I was doing my research, they're on crazy sale on Cyber Monday, and they're cheaper just normally on Amazon. So,
Yeah. Oh, you mean Newegg Cyber Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
but pretty much no Cyber Monday tech sale seems to have anything worthwhile.
No.
It's literally like the laptop that is legit too slow for you to use.
Yeah, it's like I have a Newegg wish list and a Steam wish list and all these wish lists. I get notifications like, whoa, shit on your wish list is cheaper now because it's a sale day. But it's like, yeah, but after the sale, the price always goes down. It just keeps going down and down and down forever until you get newer stuff.
Yeah.
New stuff is expensive, old stuff is cheap.
Obsolete RAM for your older computer is going to be cheaper like a month from now than it is now.
Yep.
Probably. So we want to talk a little bit about how you make the decision of what to buy. Like how you actually do your research when you're trying to buy like a NAS or a computer. Like
Right.
the specific ways we figure this out.
Right. Well, first of all, I got to say a lot of people out there, right, especially I see on the internet, a frequent comment is like, hey, I just got a Nintendo Switch. What are essential things I should get for it? Or, hey, I just got an iPhone. What are apps that I must have, right? And it's
Yep.
like this kind of thinking, not just in technology, but in all consumerism, is wrong thinking. You're basically saying, I just want to spend money. What the fuck should I spend it on? Which toilet should I throw money into?
There's an orthogonal direction to go. There's a third component. If someone said, I am a gamer. What are useful apps to have on my phone for tabletop gaming, like scorekeepers and such?
No. See,
that is different because
that is still.
I have a task and I'm looking for tools.
Right. Well. Okay. See, saying I'm a gamer, what apps should I get is more specific, but it's still not better enough. It should be you wait until the exact moment you actually have a specific need. Like, holy crap, I am here right now in my life, and I'm trying to play a board game. And I'm having trouble keeping score. Now I can ask, what is the specific thing that will solve my problem? And then if it costs money, then you buy it, right?
Yep.
Don't just go buying stuff, right? You only buy things that solve a problem you have, right? We just talked about NASs. If you have not run into the situation in your life where you are facing a hardship and then have discovered that the hardship related to storage will be solved by a NAS and that is the best solution to your problem, don't just go and looking at NASs and pricing them out, right? You have to have the need for a thing comes first. Then you do the research to find what is the best solution, and then you go shopping.
Now we're gonna skip. There is a separate problem of how do you know what your needs are? Like
because you have a problem. There's something in your life that you are having trouble with.
What about the people? I'm playing a little devil's advocate here. The people who clearly have a problem don't realize it's a problem.
Well, that has nothing to do.
They don't recognize.
Telling them how to shop isn't going to help them, right? That's a different problem, which is you don't know you got a problem.
But so think of it this way: there's there's three elements. There's a triptych here.
Mm-hmm.
There's the need, or the task. They're the same thing. The task, the thing you're trying to do that you either can't do now or want to be able to do better. There's the tool. And then there is the
shopping.
Yes, the actual purchasing of the thing.
Yes.
So
choosing the exact one and how much to pay, get the best price for it, etc.
So I will very rarely, occasionally, I'll poke around and be like, are there hard drives that are cheap? Because I want to be aware.
I'm just collecting information,
yes.
But I'm not buying unless I have a bunch of full drives or buying a new computer and I'm going, oh shit, my drives are full. Yep. I need drives. I don't go randomly buying drives just because they're cheap. But if I'm in a situation where it's like, I go to look at Newegg and see what drives cost just because I want to be informed of what the state of the world is.
Yep. So if you're the kind of person who buys computer
but
stuff.
But even if I went to Newegg and saw like 100 terabyte drive, $10, unless I needed it, I wouldn't buy even the $10.
Yep.
Because when I do need it, they'll have 1,000 terabyte drive for $5.
So I usually pretty much always first try to document for myself, at least in my brain, but sometimes I'll write it down, or usually I'll draw something like, what do I need to do? Like in the NAS case, I want to back up all these PCs with tons of storage.
And your current NAS is full.
Yep.
And you got a problem.
Yep, to something, and I want that thing to back up to some other thing, like Amazon Glacier. So that already is a more complex task than you might think, because I'm not just saying, here's the workflow I want, but I'm also thinking about what could I do with this workflow that I couldn't have done before? Is there something I'm missing? Is there an alternative solution? Is the thing I'm trying to accomplish even worth accomplishing?
Mm-hmm. Right. So for example, like I have a router. My router's mad old, and it's got some problems with it. It's not perfect, right? But it works. Everything connects to it. It does the DHCP just fine. It totally works, right? But I've thought, my new iPads, my new iPhones, they use like newer, faster Wi-Fi. This router I have only does ABGN. There's new stuff like AC and even other 802.11s that I don't even know what they are on now, right? But I could get faster Wi-Fi with a newer router and get better features and such, whatever, right? Should I buy a new router when I have a perfectly working one? And I said, you know what? While it's tempting to go around researching routers and you look at them and you want to buy stuff because, consumerism, buying stuff is fun, right? You have to have the conscious brain that fights against that urge to buy stuff and spend money because it's like, all right, I imagine that I bought a new fancy router and that Wi-Fi was somehow faster. How would my life be different? I would be poorer. And would I even notice?
Yep.
Like, the speed of 802.11n or whatever the hell I have now is already faster than the internet connection I get from the cable modem.
Now,
so
an alternative discussion might be...
Have I ever had a problem where my Wi-Fi wasn't fast enough for what I'm doing?
Say
no,
your
I have
router
not.
is marginal, meaning the speed isn't really a problem, but It occasionally needs to be rebooted because it's overheating. It's
Then
got
you
some
have a real
issues.
problem. Your shit's broken. You got to replace it.
But then there's the question of, do you replace it with the cheap thing that accomplishes the same thing before? Or do you future-proof by spending the money, because you got to buy one anyway, to buy a better one?
Right.
And that comes down to the thing we say all the time on Geek Nights. You got to identify, are you at a plateau of that technology?
Yeah, so this happens when it actually comes to buying something, there's usually 3 options, right? There's the bleeding edge, latest and greatest expensive option. There's the very reasonable middle price option that it's pretty much like just great, but not, as amazing as the bleeding edge option. And there's the really crazy value El Cheapo option that's not as good as the other 2, but damn, you get a lot for your money.
Like a 1 terabyte internal cheapo Western Digital drive is $50.
Right, and it's shockingly cheap. Like
$50 for a terabyte.
Like, wow, this hard drive might crash, but holy crap, that's a lot for $50. Like, that's such a value.
Except you had $90 for 4 terabytes.
Like, there's no there are cheaper things than this, but why would you go cheaper? This is the cheapest thing you would possibly buy.
I tried to sort by cheapness, and it's showing me cables because it doesn't sort well.
So it's how do you choose which?
Here you go, Scott. You can buy right now today a refurbished Seagate Barracuda 160 gigabyte drive for $10.
I mean, damn.
Yeah. That is a piece of garbage. $10 for a literal piece of garbage.
Well, if you bought 10 of them, it'd be $160. No, 160 gigs for
Nope.
1,600 gigs.
That $50 1 terabyte
1.6 terabytes for $100. Is that a better deal
than 1 terabyte for $50?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's always a tough choice depending on what your situation is, and it comes down to how much you care, right? So it's for example, let's say you're buying a mouse. You're buying a mouse, right?
Not just how much you care, but think how much you care now. How much do you care about the situation 3 to 5 years from now, and what's the opportunity cost for today?
Mm-hmm. So you're buying a mouse, right? Well, even if you're if you're a pro gamer, you should be buying the expensive mouse because that's a very important piece of equipment for your pro gaming needs, right? If you're a gamer but not super pro, you can definitely get away with the perfectly normal middle-of-the-road mouse. If you get the basic cheapo mouse, you're going to have problems even with your middle-of-the-road normal gamering, right? But if you're a normal person, you get El Cheapo mouse. But the thing with El Cheapo mouse is even though it's an amazing mouse for $5, is going to break. It's like getting the $5 sunglasses or the $5 umbrella. You're going to have to buy 10 of them, right? It's not going to last that long. You're going to be buying a mouse every year when a chip break, a piece of it breaks.
What's the old parable of it's more expensive to be poor because you have to buy stuff that costs too much for how durable it is, and then it wears out immediately because you can't afford to buy the one durable thing.
Yep. So, that's, it's well, if you need the mouse immediately and all you can afford is the cheap one, get the cheap one because it's still pretty great for that cheapo price. But if you can afford to go in the middle of the road, then you should, because then you're actually going to be saving money possibly if durability is your issue.
Yep.
Right? But if the durability of the cheaper one is fine and the only issue is your DPI because it's a mouse and you're not gaming, just get El Cheapo mouse. You'll never notice the difference in your whole life.
Yep. So buying a NAS,
just like I'll never notice the difference of that faster router in my whole life.
Buying a
At least
NAS
not-
is
at least not
already
now.
a pretty specialized use case. So assuming I know, like I said, I got to work for there's a thing I want to do. Having a modern NAS will solve that problem. It additionally solves all these other problems that weren't pressing. There are features that will be nice for me that I didn't need, but if they come along with the solution to a problem I have, then that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get the NAS, but then I got to figure out what drives to buy. And that was how basically I went to Newegg and I literally just show me hard drives bigger than 4 terabytes just to see what are the options, what do things cost, so I can begin to figure out okay, there's this green one and this red one. What the hell's the difference between those? Does the NAS drive really matter? All that nonsense.
So the way to figure, so that's like I said, basically choose between the cheap, middle, and fancy option. But when you go to Newegg or Amazon or wherever you're going to buy anything, there's not only 3 choices. There's like 1,000 choices.
Yep.
So like how do you narrow it down? Here's how I narrow it down, right?
Because I'll see if I do it differently.
So we'll use your hard drives, right? So first of all, there's certain specs of the thing that you know are set in stone.
It's got to be at least 4 terabytes.
It has to be a SATA drive.
Yep.
Right? It can't be an old IDE drive, right? So you lock in, it must be SATA drives, right?
Yep.
You look at like SATA and you're like, well, all the modern SATA is like 6 gigabits per second. So you filter out all the old versions of SATA, only the new versions, right? Then you say, okay, I need at least this much space per drive.
Yep.
So you filter on storage. That's set in stone. You can't change your mind about that. It needs to be at least, you said 4 terabytes? Fine. All the ones smaller than 4, get out of my face.
Yep, just broad brushes here.
All right. Then you get your price in there. Well, obviously,
I don't.
even
at
though.
that point.
Oh, really?
Because I want to know if there's an outlier, either real high or real low. I want to know about it at this initial stage.
I don't filter out low prices, but I do filter out high prices because, like, if you're looking for video cards or like CPUs, like, there's always someone throwing in one that's like the Intel i9, whatever. It's like, I don't need that. It's never right.
I do like to know.
So
I
pick a very like. There's a point at which the price is ridiculous high.
Okay. So you do the thing I do. Where I'll be like, not more than $2,000.
Yeah, right. It's like hard drives. It's like a 4 terabyte drive. I'm not spending more than say $200 on one of those. Filter out everything that costs more than $300.
Oh,
is
so
not even a reason.
My hard drive filter, I specifically looked for under 500 because I wanted to see. The
I would
full
never even
spectrum.
spend $400 on a drive, but if you want to look, sure. But you know,
well, I wanted to see what the because here's the thing. Get back to the plateau. I want to know where the plateau is on drives in terms of like a 6 terabyte drive is not that much cheaper than an 8 terabyte. So you should probably go for the 8 terabyte. The 10 terabyte is significantly more expensive than the 8 terabyte.
Well, to figure that out, what I do is I sort by the low price, and then I keep changing the storage requirement to look across, right, like that. But like these are the specs that you care about: the price, the storage. We're only, this is only hard drives, but it applies to everything else. So you're talking about video cards, right? It's like, okay, well, I know that I'm either getting a 1070 or a 1080 because 1060 and 1050 are too weak for my awesome gaming PC, and I know it's got to be PCI Express 16, and I know it's got to have 2 HDMI's in the back and 2 display ports, not one of those 4 display port ones because I'm plugging it into a TV.
And it's got to be NVIDIA, which actually we should talk about because if you keep an eye on the trends of the thing you're researching, you'll also be able to narrow it down by a reasonable list of trusted brands.
Right, you're buying a TV. Okay, well, I know that, these brands are good, these brands are not good. I know that I need to have this many inputs on the back, like the spec, I need this many inches for my room because my room is this big.
Yep.
But
how do you figure out the brand? Like, do you even look at AMD? Or like, do you look at ATI video cards or just do you not?
No.
Okay.
I know, not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I might though. I am slightly paying attention to all the Ryzen, biz and Radeon biz, but I haven't heard enough biz from there to convince me to look at them yet.
Well, like hard drives, I pretty much limited it to Western Digital and Seagate because all the other drives.
Oh, you looked at brands? Okay.
I
don't lock in the brand, but what I do
I eliminate the Sornies and the magnet boxes.
The final
basically.
thing I do, and there's not 100% validity to this, but I sort by user review, right? So like on Amazon, I look at the stars, and on Newegg, I look at the eggs, and I bring the highest average reviews by users to the top. Sometimes this will send you on a false errand. For example, there's Asus and there's ASRock, right? ASRock is like the cheapo Asus boards, the motherboards. They kind of work, but, they're good. They're not the worst, but they're cheapo Asus boards. They give rebates to people who write Newegg reviews. So if you sort motherboards by reviews, ASRock's show up first like almost all the time and you'll see in the reviews, people are like, I'm writing this because of, the rebate review program, but they're still leaving a positive review. They're leaving honest reviews. I've seen people doing for the rebate review program with 1 egg.
So I used to, this option seems to have disappeared for me on Amazon because I tried to do it earlier today, but I used to sort things not by highest average review, but by number of reviews. Because on Amazon, that would tell me what's the thing most people are buying.
Well, I mean, after sorting by best, highest rating, you can look and say, oh, well, that first one has like only 5 ratings, and it's like there'll be one with perfect 5 stars, but only 5 ratings.
Like when you're buying a CPU,
and another one has like 2,000 ratings and has like 4.3 stars. It's like if you got thousands of ratings and you're still at 4.3 stars, that might as well be 5 stars.
Yep. But if you're buying like a CPU and you're a gamer, you just look for what CPU from the current generation has the most reviews. It's probably the one that every gamer is buying, and that's probably the one you want.
Yeah.
And previously it was that Intel like 6700K i7.
The other thing is when you look at the reviews, every site has a little graph showing you how many 5s, how many 4s, how many 3s.
Yep.
Sometimes you'll see 2 different things, and both are rated like 4.5 stars or 4.5 eggs. But when you actually look at the reviews, right, what you're going to see is that one of them is going to have a huge pile of 5s and a little bit of 1s that's bringing it down.
Oh, do you I actually read the text.
I read
of
text of reviews, yeah, and then you look at another one, and another one maybe has like sort of a little curve to it, like some 5, 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, and that's what's bringing the average down from 5s. And what you realize is that the one with the curve is sort of like, sort of mixed reviews, right?
Yeah.
But the one with the big spike on 5 and a little bump on the 1s, that's just like, well, it's a product in the real world. There's a small % chance you're going to get a broken one,
So I do the same thing with restaurants. If I look at like Yelp or Google, if I see a restaurant that has a bunch of like low ratings and I read them, and if the complaints are all about the service and not the food, I almost definitely go to that restaurant because the people who complain about the service usually are bad people.
Yep.
And especially if you read the text and it's clear that they're just a bad person. Same thing with this. If I see a review of a hard drive and it's like 1 star, head to RMA, it's like, okay, dude.
Yeah, it's like 1 star head to RMA, but it's like, yeah, any product on Newegg or anywhere, there's going to be, no one's perfect, right? Even iPhones don't all show up 100% perfect.
Yep.
Some people are buying, the QA is not 100%. Someone's going to buy an iPhone, open it up, it's not going to work. They're going to have to return it and get a different one.
1 star, iPhones are bad.
Yeah, that doesn't mean iPhones are bad, right? But so if that's of all the 1 star reviews are RMAs, then all the rest are 5. That's a perfect product.
So
Something with a curve, though, 4s and 3s and 2s, that's people who have a working thing and found some other problem with it where they kept it, but they have a complaint about it. And that, to me, is actually worse than a review that says, had to return it, it was broken, got a new one.
So the NASs, the non-plus versions that are like $200 cheaper, they were like that. They had a lot of middling reviews that were like, yeah, it works fine, but like if I run this kind of service on it, it's actually kind of slow. Turns out it doesn't have as much RAM as the more expensive version. Like those kinds of things that led me toward getting the more expensive one, because those are the kinds of things that I would complain about.
Right. And so this is how, by using the reviews and the filters, you can figure out what is the cheap option that's like, wow, inexpensive, but you get a lot for it. Which one is the middling option where it's like, that's the middle of the road choice, and which one is the bleeding edge, but it is the best. It just costs more money, but I have money.
And then the last thing I do is I try to narrow it down to like 2 case studies. Like, I could do it this way or this way. So like this NAS with this kind of drive, this NAS with this kind of drive.
And imagine what your life is going to be like if you choose A or choose B, and try to actually figure out like, all right, what's actually going to be like when I use these? What's going to be different for me in my life? What actual impact is it going to have?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'll buy I think about, are you going to buy NVIDIA 1080 or a 1070? It's like, or a 1060. And you think about it. All right, if I buy a 1060, what will my life be like? Well, you know what's going to happen is I'm going to buy some game on Steam, and it's going to be a little slow because, the 1060 actually is quite significantly slower than the 1070 and the 1080, right?
Yep.
That video I render is going to take like quite a while longer to render, like maybe even hours, right? I'm going to lose time in my life for that 1060. Is it worth $100 to go to the 1070? It's like, all right, I guess it is, because my life will be significantly better at 1070. It's like, I wasn't at 1070, 1080. It's like,
a lot more money.
It is a lot more money, and it is faster, but you know what? That game that was slow in the 1060... it's like, yeah, the 1080 will get even more frames, but the 1070 will still get enough frames, right?
So the 1080, I made this.
How much faster will my video render with the 1080 versus the 1070? Faster, but how much faster? Only 30 minutes faster, not hours faster? All right, I can see where I should aim here.
Yep.
Right?
And it comes down to, once you narrow it down to like that level of granularity, you got to make those tough calls. Like looking right here, 4 hard drives for $90, I can get 4 terabyte drives.
Yeah, tough call. Maybe even though I know the 1060 is going to not be as good as the 70 to a significant degree, it's just so much cheaper. That money is going to make a difference in my life. What am I going to spend that money on that I'm saving?
I'll have to pay.
That money that I'm saving, I'm going to buy this other thing, and that is, I'm basically paying an hour of video encoding time to get something else. I'll do it.
So with the NAS, I would have to pay more than double to double the space. Like to go from 4 terabyte drives to 8 terabyte drives. It cost me more than double the money to do that.
Yep.
So what I imagined then was, what is the pain that I'm dealing with now? And the pain I'm dealing with now is fucking NAS is full and I want to do complicated stuff. Double the space greatly reduces the chance I'm going to have to deal with the NAS is full in the next 5 years.
Yep. I mean,
I am willing to pay.
How long have I had my NAS? It's never been. It was only.
NAS
It was
has been full.
only full when Windows backup rotation was failing. So I get up too many Windows backups.
Yep.
So I just deleted them all, and now I haven't been out of space since.
Yep, but my NAS only has 2 terabytes of space in it
Mine
after redundancy.
Mine has, I think, 4. Is it 4 2s or 4 4s?
Mine has 2 2s because I bought it a long goddamn time ago.
Yeah.
So I looked at the space I'm using today and the panels, and like I actually projected storage requirements, assuming that I do a full-on fucking backup pipeline, because my other biggest fear is I do not want to buy an NAS and still have manual backups in different places. I want one ring to rule them all, so paying more than double to go from 4 terabyte drives to 8 terabyte drives was worth it. I could not project a reasonable scenario where 10 or 12 terabyte drives would save me anything. They would just cost me a ton of money. Plus, that NAS, you can buy up to 2 additional units that plug into it that can each hold 5 more drives. So I can upgrade it. So I could buy 3 years from now 5 12 terabyte drives and shove them in that
Well,
thing.
assuming they're still selling that attachment thing.
Yeah, but QNAP seems okay about that.
We'll see.
I see a lot of reviews about people who've had these things long. Not QNAP, Synology. QNAP was the one that looked bad. So yeah.
Synology does look better. You get the feeling from, that's one thing you have to do, especially with brands, is sort of get a feel for like what, it's like brands don't mean nothing. It's like the brand itself is just a marketing logo, symbol, whatever, right? But you get a feel for like, what is the company like? And I get a feel from Synology looking at their software. It's a bunch of open source Linux nerds working there, right? Because basically it runs.
Also, their client base includes like offices and companies, not just like me in my house.
Yeah. Anyway.
But then I went to like the QNAP site and it didn't look as polished. So of course that can be dangerous. Like, don't go to Asus's website. You'll never fucking buy an Asus thing again.
That's right.
So yeah, just know what you want to do first, and everything else follows from there. And if you don't know what you want to do,
don't do nothing.
Don't buy anything.
There's no reason. Don't buy stuff. Anything. Don't buy stuff just because you like buying stuff unless you're mad rich. Even if you're mad rich, give me the money.
Unless you want to buy episodes of Geek Nights, we are more than happy to make that happen.
Yeah.
All right. That's pretty good. Let's see. In the stream, we got a bunch of people. Scott, open your eyes. Scott, open your eyes, Scott. No. The Threadripper 1900X has 64 PCIe lanes. All right. Scott, open your eyes. Your eyes are closed. I hunger a bit.